I get a phone call, they tell me that they want to do a camera test. I'm like, again, camera test, again, another, almost.
All right, so you're ready
And
to
then
set
I'm like,
yourself up
okay,
for
whatever,
rejection.
what am I being testing for?
What was it like seeing yourself for the first time in full Snow White drag?
I love that description. It's perfect. Oh my God, well, when you get to wear Sandy Powell, first of all, insane.
Is not designed right now to necessarily develop great leaders or to encourage more people to seek public office.
There was a time when Disney's name alone guaranteed magic. Fairy tales, princesses, and vibrant animations shaped our childhood dreams, leaving memories that still glow warm in our minds. But now, a swirl of controversy threatens to extinguish that glow. It centers around Disney's upcoming live-action Snow White, a remake of the 1937 classic that was once considered the crown jewel of animated cinema. Even before the film's release, negative press, heated fan backlash, and social media wars have set the stage for what might be Disney's most chaotic production in years. Rachel Zegler, the actress tasked with bringing Snow White to life, has inadvertently become a magnet for outrage. Her comments about the original storyline being outdated and the prince's behavior weird have placed her in direct opposition to Disney's traditional fanbase, folks who've cherished these characters since childhood. Adding a potent spark to the fire is Gal Gadot, cast as the evil queen, who reportedly has been sidelined and is none too pleased about it. Together, Zegler's public statements and Gadot's quiet but pointed responses have evolved into a showdown that Disney never intended. How did a remake of one of Disney's most iconic fairy tales turn into such a public fiasco? And how could two of Hollywood's rising stars find themselves at the center of a storm that threatens to redefine Disney's future? The whole ordeal exposes deeper cracks in the House of Mouse, issues related to political positioning, creative direction, and an unsettling inability to keep everyone, from cast to fans, satisfied.
That would be my preference as well.
Why your preference?
Well, look, I'm going to be 72 years old tomorrow. I've put in almost 50 years. There are other things in life that I'd like to do. I also am confident that the board will be able to identify an able successor.
Today, we're peeling back the curtain on what some are calling Disney's latest disaster. Everyone knows the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Released in 1937, it was the first feature-length animated film from Walt Disney and a groundbreaking achievement in cinematic history. The innovation, the heartfelt songs, and the endearing innocence of Snow White shaped the blueprint for Disney princesses for decades. Audiences who experience that original masterpiece often speak of it with hushed reverence, recalling how its simple message of love and hope transcended its era. So when Disney announced it would produce a live-action version of its inaugural classic, the stakes were colossal. Fans wondered if the studio could recapture the old magic for modern times. On paper, the plan made sense. Build upon the film's treasured legacy, introduce new musical numbers, and present a fresh twist for contemporary viewers. Yet the path from concept to execution seems to have gone terribly wrong. As whispers emerged about behind-the-scenes changes, updated characters, potentially altered story arcs, some fans grew uneasy. Nostalgia is powerful, and tinkering with a classic runs the risk of alienating those who hold it dear. Still, Disney has had successes in reimagining old favorites, such as Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast. Many fans hoped Snow White would follow a similar path. But from the moment Rachel Zegler began discussing the film, the dream started to unravel. When fans first heard that Rachel Zegler would be Snow White, they were curious.
We wrapped on a Tuesday, and then I moved to Poland on the Wednesday and started shooting.
Oh my
So it was a hard, goodbye that I feel like I mourned the wrap of Snow White while I was in the middle of kind of getting my bearings on the Hunger Games set.
She'd shown promise in other roles and was hailed as a rising star with remarkable vocal talents. But soon, Zegler's interviews started making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Instead of praising the original film's charm, she focused on what she deemed its shortcomings. She referred to the classic prince as a stalker, a word many considered shockingly harsh for a beloved children's character. Zegler also described the older storyline as weird and outdated, triggering a wave of frustration among Disney loyalists. Online reactions morphed from mild surprise to outright fury as fans posted clips of her interviews. A large contingent felt that if an actress signs on to play an iconic role, she should show respect for the film's legacy, even if she aims to modernize the character. Some perceived her remarks as dismissive, even mocking, toward the source material. Within days, hashtags calling for boycotts surfaced. Social media feeds brimmed with posts attacking Zegler's statements, calling them tone-deaf and condescending. Zegler attempted to clarify that she only meant to highlight the film's older social norms, pointing out that Snow White can be reimagined as a self-reliant figure who doesn't revolve around romance. But the controversy was already lit, and it spread like wildfire. YouTubers and bloggers lambasted her interviews.
She's my best friend, and she's the one who sent me the casting notice and said, "Thank me when you're famous." It's the craziest thing ever that it came true in that weird way, and that's why I bring her everywhere, and she's the best ever. But yeah, I put myself on tape. It's the worst tape you've ever seen in your life. I have no idea how I got the part still. And it's being used to teach future casting directors at NYU.
Dissecting each quote, fueling a relentless cycle of criticism, Disney, in turn, found itself struggling to contain the damage as public sentiment toward its upcoming remake sank lower and lower. While Zegler's remarks ignited the initial blaze, Gal Gadot's involvement added complexity that nobody saw coming. Gadot, adored by many for her portrayal of Wonder Woman, initially seemed ecstatic about playing the evil queen. Fans were thrilled at the idea, the fearless Amazon warrior stepping into the shoes of one of Disney's most iconic villains. It felt like an epic new chapter in her already impressive career. But rumors soon spread that Gadot's role wasn't the showstopper she'd envisioned. Reports surfaced that several of her key scenes got cut or edited down, including big moments that might have allowed her to shine in a deliciously wicked way. Gadot, normally positive and poised, was said to be upset by these changes. Insiders hinted that she believed the controversy swirling around Rachel Zegler had overshadowed the entire project, stifling any potential for the film to stand on its own merits. Matters only escalated when observers noticed subtle digs on social media. A mysterious like here, a cryptic retweet there. Though Gadot never publicly bashed her co-star, fans pieced together scraps of evidence suggesting a quiet feud. According to some insider leaks, Gadot felt Zegler's comments had undermined the film's integrity. Others claimed Gadot was frustrated that Disney appeared more concerned with managing negative headlines than highlighting the potential greatness of her evil queen. Little by little, the production's once hopeful energy devolved into a tense standoff behind the scenes. It's important to realize that this Snow White drama didn't happen in a vacuum. Disney has been trudging through a minefield of controversies over the last few years. Under Bob Chapek, the studio found itself at the center of a polarizing debate when it initially stayed silent on Florida's Don't Say Gay bill.
When a creator has pitched you a great story and you've given them the ability to go out and tell that story, you've given them the resources, the money, the tools, the place to tell that story, that story is...
Then later reversed course to denounce it. Both sides criticized Disney. One for not taking a strong stand fast enough, the other for taking any stand at all. What emerged was a perception that the company was waffling, too politically timid for some, too political for others. This clash came amid a series of box office disappointments. Films like Lightyear and Strange World failed to ignite audiences, leaving analysts wondering if Disney's increasing emphasis on social messaging was overshadowing its storytelling. Chapek's tenure saw Disney's once untouchable brand beginning to falter as fans argued over whether the studio had lost its creative spark. Then came Bob Iger's return, which many welcomed as a chance to right the ship. Yet, the problems didn't vanish overnight. Snow White thus became the newest chapter in a broader identity crisis for the House of Mouse. Could Disney modernize its content for a changing world while preserving the fairy tale simplicity that endeared it to millions? Or had it veered so far into corporate messaging and risk-averse planning that the heart of what made Disney special was fading? The Snow White fiasco, in many ways, epitomizes these central questions. Instead of bridging audiences together, the production has become a flashpoint that highlights Disney's struggle to satisfy everyone, and in doing so, satisfies no one. A storm was already brewing, but it intensified when the teaser trailer for Snow White dropped. Typically, Disney trailers can bank on nostalgia alone to rack up positive buzz. Instead, the teaser was bombarded with an avalanche of dislikes on YouTube, reportedly hitting a staggering 700,000 plus thumbs down.
Anything that has to do with technology creating opportunity for us, I find very enjoyable. The creative process at its highest level is at times frustrating, but often, and fortunately for us, really enjoyable.
Compared to only a fraction of that in likes. Content creators across platforms chimed in, calling it one of the most heavily panned Disney trailers in recent memory. Why the extreme negativity? Critics pounced on everything from the perceived wokeness of the story changes to the rumored replacement of the seven dwarfs with new magical beings. Longtime fans questioned if the film was still Snow White at all, or just another cookie-cutter revision disguised as a faithful retelling. On top of that, Zegler's comments about the prince and the story's so-called strange romance lived rent-free in viewers' minds, fueling a narrative that Disney was dismantling its own classic for a quick modern update. According to insider reports, negative reception led executives to scramble for solutions. Rumors circulated that they'd invest additional money in reshoots, hoping to mitigate the backlash. Some claimed the dwarfs would be fully CGI after all, erasing previously leaked on-set photos of a multi-ethnic, multi-height group. Others speculated that dialogue might be tweaked to soften Zegler's lines, so her Snow White wouldn't sound too dismissive of the original. But these supposed last-minute course corrections only fanned skepticism further. If the studio lacked confidence in its own vision, how could fans trust the finished product? Adding yet another explosive layer, the production became a lightning rod for international politics. Gal Gadot, an Israeli actress who has repeatedly spoken about her country and even served in the Israeli military, found her stance clashing with Rachel Zegler's pro-Palestinian tweets.
She was like, Jacqueline, if they play Getaway Car or Maroon, she's on crisis watch. Not only did she play Getaway Car, she also played Maroon. I was having a mental breakdown in the audience at MetLife Stadium.
Supporters from both sides of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict latched onto the tension, turning what might have been a simple movie spat into a grander political discussion. Gadot's critics claimed her Israeli background made her an unwelcome choice for a major Disney property, while Zegler's defenders appreciated her vocal support for humanitarian relief in Gaza. Conversely, others rallied behind Gadot, praising her for highlighting that love and empathy transcend geopolitical debates. Disney executives tried to keep a neutral stance, but when star actresses publicly post or like statements that tiptoe around or outright challenge each other's beliefs, neutrality becomes a fantasy. Social media watchers spotted subtle jabs, like Gadot retweeting statements critical of Zegler's approach, only to remove them later. And Zegler, for her part, quietly refused to back down from comments about social justice. What began as an aesthetic retelling of a children's fairy tale transformed into an ideological confrontation, with each side feeling passionately that the film's production had become a referendum on real-world issues. In an era where the boundaries between art, politics, and personal conviction blur, Snow White found itself in the crosshairs. What's next for this embattled film and for Disney at large? The studio has poured millions into a product that should, theoretically, become an easy success based on name recognition alone. Yet the public relations nightmares have cast a lengthy shadow. Box office trackers remain skeptical.
The board was making a decision to make a change at the CEO level at Disney, and that they might ask me to step back.
And you say to her?
And I said to Willow, I'm getting this call. It's possible that I could get asked back.
Wondering if Snow White can bounce back from a history-making wave of YouTube dislikes. Skepticism grows each time a new snippet of Zegler's commentary circulates, or rumors spread of Gadot's diminishing enthusiasm. Disney's leadership is caught in a bind. On one hand, they've been striving to expand and modernize their iconic stories, appealing to younger generations who demand more progressive interpretations of princess tales. On the other hand, they risk burning the bridge to those who cherish classic storylines for their timeless innocence. The entire fiasco begs an even bigger question. Has Disney let external pressures, be they political, social, or corporate, warp the essence of the fairy tale? With millions spent, the film won't just vanish. Disney will push forward, re-edit if necessary, and attempt a marketing pivot that might emphasize different angles. Perhaps spotlighting the spectacle and music, or highlighting supporting characters to pull focus from the controversies. Yet, can any amount of promotional retooling save a project that's already been labeled by many as dead on arrival? For a production that started with so much potential, the path ahead seems fraught, uncertain, and riddled with landmines. Heat curtain is poised to rise on Snow White, but the audience's applause or jeers may have already been decided long before the opening credits. We've witnessed Rachel Zegler's polarizing perspective on the original story, Gal Gadot's frustration over minimized scenes, and Disney's overarching woes as it struggles to balance legacy with the demands of a rapidly shifting cultural landscape?
Is not designed right now to necessarily develop great leaders or to encourage more people to seek public office. It just is far more difficult. Now, I've never been in it, but from what I observe, it's far more difficult to run for office today than ever before.
Each misstep, each interview misfire, and each moment of social media drama has contributed to what many are calling Disney's biggest PR nightmare in ages. As the release draws nearer, the question isn't simply whether Snow White will make money, it's whether Disney can recapture its once unshakable place in the hearts of fans who feel disenchanted. In an era when a single tweet or offhand remark can spark raging debates that reverberate across the internet, can any corporation continue to stand on decades-old goodwill alone? The House of Mouse might find that no amount of castle magic can shield it from the consequences of alienating fans, muddling creative visions, or ignoring the sincerity behind its classic tales. Ultimately, this entire episode underscores a pressing truth. Disney's legacy is a powerful inheritance, but it's also a heavy burden. With each remake, the stakes are higher, the critics sharper, and the audience quicker to cast judgment. Will Snow White become a cautionary tale of how not to modernize a classic? Or could it yet surprise everyone with a final twist of true Disney enchantment? Right now, the fairest answer of them all is that only time will tell.